Super Saiyan 3 is one of the most misunderstood transformations in Dragon Ball Z, especially when it comes to scaling it between different characters. While both Goku and Gotenks can assess the form, the way they use it and what it actually gives them isn't the same at all. So the real question isn't just who hits harder, it's how Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks actually compare when you factor in experience, stamina drain, fusion mechanics, and fight IQ. Today, we're breaking down Super Saiyan 3 Goku versus Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, looking at what the form provides each of them and why this matchup is far closer or far farther than some people usually assume. By the way, if you're not a member of the Dragon Ball HQ, I implore you to join. The link is in the description below. Come be a part of this growing community. I think what's the most important thing is to first establish the strength between Goten and Trunks individually, and then later how Gotenks gets factored into the equation. Now, when fans talk about Goten and Trunks, there's a knee-jerk tendency to assume they're automatically weaker just because they're kids. It's like some people equate age or size with power, as if, being honest, and Dragon Ball hasn't contradicted this multiple times. Fandom often inflates the value of experience and seniority, even though brute strength has been shown to trump both when push comes to shove. Another factor muddying the waters is how little combat time Goten and Trunks actually get. Outside of sparring with each other and fighting Android 18 during the tournament, we don't really see them pushed much on their own. The lack of screen time makes it easy for people to underestimate them, I would imagine. But with that set aside, let's talk about the power scaling for both of them, because that's where things get pretty interesting. When you're discussing Goten and Trunks' strength in the Buu Saga, you have two major sources saying essentially the same thing in different flavors. The Daizenshu makes the claim that Goten and Trunks' combat power is not below Gohan's. A statement from volume 20 of the manga flat out calls them stronger than Gohan as well. Now, people interpret these kind of statements in two major ways. The more aggressive interpretation is that Goten and Trunks are stronger even in base form, but the more grounded view is that they're comparable to Gohan when transformed. So when all three are Super Saiyan, the power gap is minimal or non-existent. This is actually backed up by how the guidebooks order their information. The Daizenshu first notes Goten's similarity to Gohan and then mentions that Goten has the ability to transform, implying that the comparison was based on their Super Saiyan states. However, there's a noticeable wording difference in the guides, some saying equal, others saying stronger, but that can probably be explained by Goten's lack of refined ki control as stated in El Manga Legendaria. Despite mastering techniques like Kamehameha, Goten hasn't yet fully grasped how to manage his own energy. He has a lot of raw power, but his finesse or control isn't there, which makes sense given that Gohan himself believes Goten will surpass him and doesn't surpass him yet. So based on all of that, it's reasonable to put Super Saiyan Goten and Trunks somewhere at the level of Super Saiyan Gohan during the Cell games, since it's stated that Buu Saga Gohan has actually plateaued in strength and stayed the same, only being weaker than he was during the Cell games because he no longer has his rage amplification. While Goten might be close to Gohan in terms of raw power, he may lack the same control and finesse. This aligns with Gohan's belief that Goten will eventually surpass him, not necessarily that he has. Their training sessions also have strong parallels, reinforcing the idea that they are close in power even if Goten has yet overtaken him. Given that, the comparison between Goten and Gohan was made prior to the reveal of Gohan's Super Saiyan 2, so it's more reasonable to assume that Goten and Super Saiyan is being compared to Gohan and Super Saiyan as well. They appear relatively equal during their training in those forms. Later in the Buu Saga, Goten trains in the hyperbolic time chamber. After fusing with Trunks, Piccolo comments that their power has increased significantly. Since the power of fusion reflects the combined strength of both warriors, this implies that Goten himself powered up considerably. This Gotenks, by the way, that would be impressing Piccolo and be at the level of where he's at. Piccolo saying that Gotenks has increased significantly, by the way, would mean that he's stronger than his Super Saiyan self that Piccolo sensed prior. Now, here's where we get specific. If the fusion dance multiplies the strength of both users together, and Gotenks need to be 50 times stronger than before to be viable, then Goten and Trunks must have increased their own strength by roughly 7 times individually, which is the square root of 50. So what does that mean? It would mean that as Super Saiyans, both Goten and Trunks are now at least 3.5 times stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Gohan was back during the Cell arc. When Gotenks first transforms into Super Saiyan 3, the moment catches everyone completely off guard, including Goku himself. Goku openly acknowledged his surprise, noting that the kids managed to master the form before he ever truly did, which immediately establishes how extraordinary this transformation is. In his Super Saiyan 3 state, Gotenks is shown to contend directly with Super Buu, matching him blow for blow and at times even gaining the advantage. He repeatedly overwhelms Buu with his speed, power, and unorthodox fighting style, pressing the attack and forcing Buu onto the defensive. Techniques like the Galactic Donuts are particularly effective, allowing Gotenks to restrain and dominate the fight in ways that few others had managed to up to that point. Just as it appears that Gotenks may finally be on the verge of defeating Super Buu outright, the fusion timer runs out. Gotenks suddenly diffuses back into Goten and Trunks, bringing the battle back to an abrupt end and preventing the fight from reaching a decisive conclusion. After the Otherworld tournament wrapped up, Dragon Ball actually gave us a pretty clear picture of where the power scale stood, though it's something most fans overlook. Super Perfect Cell makes a flashy return, declaring himself stronger than ever, only to be completely embarrassed by Pikkon. That single moment places Pikkon, and by extension Goku at this stage, beyond even Super Perfect Cell. So before the Buu Saga even begins, anime Goku has already climbed into a tier above his old rival. 7 years pass and things shift. Goku now has another son, Goten. While Gohan has grown into his teenage years, Vegeta unsurprisingly spends all that time training non-stop. One scene people still debate is when Goku struggles with weighted training in the afterlife. 10 tons strapped to each limb, under 10 times Earth gravity. That's effectively 400 tons crushing down on him. At first it seems too much, but once he flips into Super Saiyan, he handles it with ease. These moments highlight how much the anime leans into showing Goku's sheer physical power compared to the manga. When the 25th World Martial Arts Tournament is announced, Goku gets special permission to return for a day. The catch? No Super Saiyan transformations are allowed during the competition. Vegeta, in typical fashion, insists he'll win regardless, even against fighters like Piccolo, now permanently fused with Kami, or Android 18. At first glance, that seems like nothing more than Saiyan arrogance, but given how far he's come, it might not be completely baseless. Meanwhile, Goku himself seems more fascinated by the raw potential of Goten and Trunks. He notices immediately that these two kids already rival where Gohan was during the Cell games, at least in his base form. The claim feels ridiculous until you look at the evidence. Goten and Trunks treat Super Saiyan as casual as other kids treat learning how to ride a bike. Even if they haven't refined the form into the full power version like Goku and Gohan did in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, their effortless transformations make them absurdly strong for their age. Remember that Gohan Super Saiyan 2 in the Cell arc was powered heavily by rage. Guides explicitly state that his fury is what pushed him into those insane heights, specifically El Manga Legendario. By the Buu Saga, Gohan's emotional edge is dulled and it shows when he fights Dabra. His power hasn't vanished, but it's inconsistent and nowhere near what it once was. During this era, Goku also encounters Supreme Kai for the first time. Because divine energy functions differently, Goku can't even sense Kai's ki at first. Despite that, he's not intimidated in the slightest. Supreme Kai admits outright that he isn't sure he could defeat Goku, which says a lot considering Kai was described in the supplementary material as being around Cell era level himself. The truth is, neither of them fully understand the other's capabilities yet. But the fact that Kaioshin thinks that he couldn't have beat Goku while only knowing his base form is pretty weird. Things heat up once Dabra turns Piccolo and Krillin into stone. Supreme Kai panics, insisting that Dabra must be eliminated immediately, but Goku, calmly as ever, brushes it off, as he flat out says Dabra shouldn't be difficult. He even adds that Dabra is on par with Cell, and Vegeta doesn't contest it. That alone shows how far Goku and Vegeta have progressed. Cell tier fighters, once treated like world-ending threats, are now seen as manageable opponents. That's even a good chance Goku could have handled Dabra without going beyond Super Saiyan 1. The same pattern repeats with Pui. Kai warns that they'll need to work together, but Vegeta steps forward in base form and humiliates him with no effort at all. Supreme Kai is stunned, clearly having no grasp of just how powerful the Saiyans had become since the Cell games. Looking back at what Goku had already accomplished in the Otherworld arc, it's obvious both Saiyans are operating on levels that make their old battle look like child's play. Some fans argue Supreme Kai's misjudgments make him an unreliable power scaler, but Dabra is different. He actually manages to hold his own against Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Depending on which source you follow, he's either slightly weaker or right around the level with magic abilities compensating for any raw power gap. In the anime, it's even implied Gohan gets stronger after Kibito heals him, suggesting his fight against Dabra happens at a higher baseline than many fans assume. Neither Goku nor Vegeta are impressed though. Vegeta jokes that Dabra's only real threat is his spit. Meanwhile, Babidi's energy measurement system is introduced. At one point, Vegeta openly states that he believes he surpassed Gohan, though he acknowledges Gohan's potential might still eclipse his if pushed to the limit. That lines up with Goku's long-standing view that Gohan holds the greatest hidden power amongst them all. Eventually, Goku admits that he underestimated Dabra and he's actually much stronger than he thought, and this initially was as strong as Cell. Then comes the infamous clash, Goku vs Majin Vegeta. Babidi's magic forcibly draws out Vegeta's full latent power. Some fans jokingly call this Super Saiyan 3 without the hair, since the description of the form is almost identical to what's said about Super Saiyan 3, drawing out one's full potential. Regardless, Goku and Majin Vegeta are evenly matched in their duel. There's a debate that Goku's undead body gave him an unnatural stamina or toughness, but Babidi's Majin modifications blur that argument. After all, Spopovich has had his neck twisted and still kept fighting like nothing happened. The Majin process clearly alters physiology in strange ways. By this point in the story, one thing is undeniable. Goku and Vegeta have entered a whole new tier of power. Once defined as the ultimate threat back in the Cell Saga, has now become a warm-up in the Buu era. One of the more overlooked aspects of Dragon Ball's power scaling isn't just raw numbers, but physiology. Certain conditions in the series fundamentally change how characters experience damage. Fighters revived in the afterlife, for example, eventually lose their ability to register pain. Goku's mental fortitude also gets highlighted during Babidi's attempt at mind control. The sorcerer can't take control of him at all either because of the unshakable will or the purity of his spirit. Vegeta, by contrast, has enough inner conflict for the spell to grab hold, but even then he only submits to it willingly. That alone suggests his resistance was on a higher tier and he allowed the corruption in for his own ends. When Goku and Vegeta finally collide, their speed and ferocity dwarf anything the younger generations can even process. Goten and Trunks literally can't catch up. not because the adults are running, but because their fight is happening at such velocity and intensity that the kids can't even enter the same space of battle. During this clash, Vegeta drops his pride momentarily, calling Goku a natural prodigy, and that's a huge admission from the man who's defined by rivalry. Their duel doesn't just shake the battlefield, it tears open the magical seal holding Majin Buu. The result is pretty catastrophic. Dabra, who up to that point was treated as high-level demon lord, gets obliterated almost instantly, underscoring just how far the power ceiling has risen. Even Gohan, the once Cell Slayer, finds himself unable to handle Buu's chaotic strength. Vegeta initially fares a bit better, he lands meaningful blows on Buu early on, but Buu's regeneration, evolving nature, quickly pushed the prince past his limits. Meanwhile, Goten and Trunks reveal to Goku the true extent of their strength, shocking Piccolo. Their hidden reserves suggest they were sandbagging in the tournament against Android 18, but even with that revelation, Goku remains calm and unimpressed, signaling how vastly beyond them he's climbed. It's here that Goku unveils Super Saiyan 3. The transformation shakes the planet itself and sends ripples detectable all the way from the Kaioshin realm, an entirely separate dimension outside the known universe. No other form in the series up to this point creates such widespread, tangible effects across cosmic barriers. When Kid Buu finally emerges, Goku admits he could have defeated Fat Buu outright with Super Saiyan 3. That's staggering considering Fat Buu had survived Vegeta's final explosion, toyed with cell-level fighters, and humiliated Gohan with ease. Goku even casually redirects one of Buu's blasts that could have obliterated Earth in an instant, proving his defense skills just as absurdly as his offense. What makes this even more interesting is that Goku chooses restraint. He holds back not because he doubts his strength, but because he sincerely believes the next generation, Goten and Trunks, deserve the responsibility of saving their world. Supplemental material reinforce how extreme Super Saiyan 3 really is, describing it as the form that draws out the absolute peak of a Saiyan's potential, unlike Super Saiyan 1 and 2, which have clear multipliers times 50 and beyond. Super Saiyan 3 is framed as raw, unquantifiable, maximum power. This may be why traditional multipliers break down at this stage. The numbers no longer make sense at this scale. By every measure, speed, endurance, destructive potential, spiritual presence, Super Saiyan 3 Goku represents a new level and might redefine the playing field of Dragon Ball. When examining a direct matchup between living Goku and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, the advantage in this specific scenario clearly goes to Gotenks. Across multiple guidebooks and supplementary material, as well as through implications in the anime and manga itself, Gotenks is described as the strongest character during his battle with Super Buu. This idea is further supported in the manga, where it's made evident that Goku does not surpass Super Buu in strength. In contrast, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is explicitly stated in several guides to be stronger than Super Buu, with the only reason for his failure being the expiration of the fusion timer rather than a lack of power. However, the discussion becomes more nuanced when focusing specifically on living Goku. When evaluating the strength of Goku after he's brought back to life, however, there are overlooked details that massively change the conversation around how strong he actually is. Elder Kai doesn't just revive him in a conventional sense, he literally transfers the rest of his lifespan, which is stated to be around 1,000 years. In Dragon Ball, life force isn't just abstract longevity, it's tied directly to the quality and the quantity of ki itself. So absorbing a millennium's worth of divine life is bound to elevate Goku's potential enormously, even though we aren't given a precise multiplier. We can also see this revival effect reflected in Vegeta. Before being brought back, Vegeta Super Saiyan 2 wasn't even on the same radar as base Gotenks fresh out of the Room of Spirit and Time. Yet after his resurrection, Vegeta's raw output skyrockets. There's an anime-only scenario that really highlights this as well. Inside of Super Buu, when Goku and Vegeta split apart from Vegito, they're forced to confront fake Super Warriors, clones of Ultimate Gohan, Gotenks, and Piccolo that share the same battle power as the originals. Now, here's the surprising part. Vegeta, who not long ago was completely outclassed by Gotenks' base form, manages to fight Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and Piccolo simultaneously and actually beat them, while only using regular Super Saiyan. That kind of gap is pretty ridiculous, if you stop to think about it, since Gotenks' fusion was supposed to be hundreds of times stronger than Vegeta by the time of the Buu Saga. And for Goku, his post-revival growth is even more absurd. In the same filler sequence, Super Saiyan Goku casually dismantles the doppelganger of Ultimate Gohan. Keep in mind that this clone wasn't some watered-down version either. Goku himself acknowledges that the ki is identical to the real Gohan's ultimate state. The Daizenshuu backs this up too, explicitly stating that the fakes possess equal strength to their originals. This means anime canon Super Saiyan Goku one-shotted someone who had previously been portrayed as the strongest Z-fighter by far. If you scale that forward, multiplying by the Super Saiyan 3 boost, a live Goku in that form isn't just competitive Ultimate Gohan, he's far above him. That's why the anime depiction creates such a radically different outcome compared to the manga, where none of these fights occur and Goku never gets to showcase his post-revival ceiling. In other words, the moment Elder Kai passed on his lifespan, Goku's entire power trajectory shifted. Super Saiyan 3 alive Goku is not the same as the version we saw while he was dead. When focusing specifically on the living version of Goku in the anime, the matchup becomes far more one-sided than many people expect. In that continuity, Goku, while only in Super Saiyan, is shown defeating Ultimate Gohan, a character who objectively scales above Gotenks. This betrayal naturally leads some viewers to push back, arguing that it contradicts the broader narrative, especially since Goku still appears cautious or uneasy around Super Buu. The logic there is understandable. If Goku truly surpassed Ultimate Gohan, then fear of Super Buu wouldn't seem to make much sense. That interpretation isn't unreasonable, but there's also considerably more evidence supporting the idea that anime Goku is just stronger than Gotenks, beyond this often debated filler sequence. In fact, the anime consistently reinforces Goku's placement at the top as the arc progresses. Much of the debate traces back to Goku's fight with Kid Buu.